Welcome again. So our next subtask is to implement the subtask of calculating the electricity bill. But before that, let me just show you how to test the display menu function to see whether it is working correctly. So in order to test the display menu function, you just call it from, for example, the main function. So you write display menu. I am calling that function, and remember our display menu function did not require any inputs in order for it to be able to do its task. So you just call it like that, and then we should see whether it is going to display a menu. And let us try to enter a wrong choice to see whether it will keep prompting us to enter the choice. So let us see. Wow, as you can see, it is displaying a menu. Let us enter a wrong choice. Will it prompt us again? Yes, it is prompting us again. Let us enter another wrong choice. Yes, it is prompting us again. So our function is working correctly. Let us try to enter a correct choice, maybe 2. It should stop. Wow, it is doing a good job. Okay, so let us go back now and implement the next subtask, which is the subtask of calculating the electricity bill. So here I have a flowchart that will guide us. Okay, so in order to calculate the electricity bill, we are going to create a function. We are going to handle it as a separate subtask. So we are going to create a separate function for it. And this function is going to need an input. So by using simple common sense, if you want to calculate the electricity bill, what is your input? The input is the number of units consumed by the customer. I hope that makes sense, okay? So as we enter this function, let us assume the user already supplied the number of units consumed, okay? And those units have been passed to our function. So for the flowchart, we are going to say if the units are less than or equal to 100, then we are going to do this much. And then once we do that, we are going to return that bill, and that will be the end of our function. However, if the units are not less or below 100, we are going to test another condition. So we are going to say if the units are greater than 100 but have not exceeded 200, then we are going to do this. We are going to apply this formula to get the electricity bill. And once we apply that and we get our bill, we are going to return our bill, and that will be the end of our function. However, if the units are not less or below 100 and they are not in between here, then automatically those units are going to be somewhere greater than 200, isn't it? So for that case, we are going to apply this formula here. I hope you got my concept there. Okay, so let us implement this flowchart. Okay, so we are going to say we have our function. Let us call our function calculate electricity bill. And then this function is going to need an input, and the input to our function is the number of units consumed. So usually the units can be a double. So in our parameter list here, we are going to say double units, and this is the only input or the only parameter that our function is going to need in order to perform its task. Then ask yourself a question: will this function return a value or not? So by using simple common sense, if you're calculating the electricity bill, we expect you to return that bill, isn't it? And ask yourself another question: if this function is going to return a value, what will be the data type of that value that is going to be returned by this function? So if this function is going to calculate and return the electricity bill, then ask yourself, what kind of data type is suitable to represent the bill? Obvious double, isn't it? The bill can be a double. So our return type here, we write double. Perfect. Let us now implement our flowchart. So our flowchart says we need, of course, to declare a variable here called bill, which is going to hold our answer, okay? So we're going to say if the units, can you see that? Our variable, if the units are less than or equal to 100, okay, what do we want to do? Okay, and then else if the units are above 100 but they are not exceeded 200, what do we want to do? Okay, and else if the units are not below or equal to that and they are not in between here, then automatically, okay, there is no need even for else if. You can just say else, okay? Else, it means they are already above what? 200. So what do you want to do when they are above 200, okay? So let us go to our flowchart and decide what to do. So our flowchart says, for this part here, we are going to say the bill will be the units times 250. So the bill will be equal to the units times 250. Then let's come to this part here. What does our flowchart say? For this part here, the flowchart says the bill will be 100 times 250. That is for the first 100 units. Plus, for those that have exceeded 100, it will be the units minus 100 times 350. So you're going to have the bill will be calculated as 100 times 250 plus the units minus 100 times 350. And then for this part here, the formula is going to be bill will be equal to, so you have the first 100, you're going to have the first 100, and then you're going to have the next 100, you're going to have the next 100, you multiply each one by 350, and then you're going to have those that have exceeded 200. For those ones, we are going to multiply each by 500. So for those that have exceeded 200, how are you going to get them? You're going to take the units supplied minus 200, and then you're going to multiply by 500. Okay? Then once you're done, you're going to return your answer. And this is the end of our calculate electricity bill module or function. You can also test this function. So you can come here and try to tell the user enter the units. And then once the user enters the units, we need to save those units. We need to say, sorry. So we are going to say cin units. Then we are going to call our function, okay? Calculate the electricity bill. And then we are going to pass those units, okay? So our function is going to return a value. We can store that value in a variable, or we can directly display it on the screen, okay? So here we can say cout whatever value is being returned, or you can say cout bill is equal to that one there, is equal to this one being returned by our function. And if you want, you can put a new line there. So let us test and see if our function is working. So enter units. So if I enter 5 units, the bill is 1,250, which is correct. You can do the math and you will see it is correct. Thank you for listening. Let us head to the next video where we will be creating the next subtask.